The last time I spoke at there in Glasgow, actually, I was at Queen's Park Rangers and going very well at the time, and the chairman sent for me Jim Gregory, and Jim Gregory sends for you, you've definitely got to attend. And he called me into the room and opened a bottle of champagne and says, pour out a couple of glasses, Tom, I'll take a few calls and I'll be back in 10 minutes. And of course, like most managers, when you're going well for a change, and a successful player, you're thinking in terms of a long contract and more money. Because when he came back, he said, well, Tommy, he says, I'm thinking of calling it a day. I says, I wouldn't do that if I was you. I says, I think you're doing a marvellous job as chairman. He said, it's you. He says, you're fucking sacked. And he had a little bit more foresight than me because he realised that 5 weeks from then I was due to appear at the Old Bailey in one of my court cases. And I pleaded guilty to my perjury charge, and the judge wouldn't believe me. Someone asked me why I took the Wolves job. I said, well, I haven't been feeling too well, and I went to the doctors, and he says, you can get as far away from football as you can, Tommy. And when I arrived at Wolves, there's a telegram waiting for me from Bernard Manning, and it said, sorry to hear about Ron Atkinson. Is Derek Dugan still with his wife? I've got the three of you in a Yankee treble. Then I met Derek Dugan at Wolves, who was a legend in his own mind. He showed me the new stand that cost £3 million. He says, what do you think, Tom? I says, marvellous. I says, I made one mistake, Derek. I said, built it facing the playing pitch. Then he showed me the trophy room and opened the doors, and there was 2 Japanese prisoners of war walked out. Then Shergar came out. And fucking Lord Lucan was sitting on his back. But it's nice to hear the lads talking about characters. You know, Jim and Bobby certainly were very much characters, and I think we lack characters in our own profession. And I was in Australia for a couple of years, and the president over there one night of a Greek club, and he's collecting signatures. I said, what are you doing, Mr. President? He said, well, we're having a petition for your resignation. I said, well, bring it over and I'll sign it as well. I think that's what's lacking in the game today, characters. I mean, Bestie was a character. I was a bit late for the training last week. The chairman says, where have you been? I said, trying to sign Bestie. He says, what happened? I said, couldn't find him. Next week I found him and I said to him, George, would he prefer grass or astroturf? He says, I don't know. He says, I've never smoked astroturf. I think Big McMenemy at Southampton's a tremendous personality and a great character. He says, when I was at Derby County, I spent £500,000 on the centre forward of Hartlepool United. He says, he can't play, but his wife's a cracker. But I suppose if you wait long enough, you get your own back, because about 2 years ago, as well read in the paper, that the Southampton team were involved in this rape charge in Sweden. And as the judge was interviewing the players, he got hold of Peter Shilton, and Peter Shilton said, well, don't blame me, because I was in the car at the time. And the judge says to the girl, well, how do you know it's Southampton players? She said, well, I was doing all the work. And they were looking for a red-headed fella at 6'8". It was Alan Ball and Laurie McMenemy's shoulders. And of course, what happens in a situation like that, they try to proportion the blame to various people, the press or whatever, the manager or the players. And Laurie McMenemy, I think, should take full responsibility, because he'd told the lads that, as it was a European Cup match, they had to get their second leg over as quickly as they possibly could. Probably one of the characters in England, really, people like Brian Clough, who is a tremendous character. And I remember when I went to Derby County, just after he left. And at Derby, they don't have a lot of facilities at the ground at all. They have a room about the size of this, which is the boardroom, and Cloughie being Cloughie, used the boardroom for his office. And most professional clubs in England, I don't know up here, but they have between 10, 12, 15 apprentice professionals who do to clean the boots and get the strips all ready for the next matches. And Cloughie lifts the phone one morning, he phones down to the boot room and he goes, "Hello, young man, a pot of tea." The kid says, "What?" He says, "You heard the pot of tea." So nothing happens for a few seconds. And Cloughie says, "Young man, do you know who this is?" The kid says, "Yes, it's Mr. Clough." The kid says, "Mr. Clough?" He says, "Yes." He says, "Do you know who this is?" Cloughie says, "No, I don't." The kid says, "Well, fuck off," and put the phone down. Probably, I think one of the silliest things I ever did when I went to Rotherham, I promised the chairman that I'd take him out of the second division, and I took him into the third. I hope Scotland get a good result on Wednesday against Wales, because I've got a saying, one Welshman's all right, and two, you've got a dodgy choir. I think if they stop singing, we get more coal up. They had a tremendous character as a referee, Clive Thomas. I remember someone said to me it was a twat. I said, "He's not that good." And I remember when I was at Preston, we had a fellow called Tom Finney, who was a genius, he was a tremendous player. He was like Bestie, except he turned up a lot more often, actually. In fact, Martin Borman turns up more often than Bestie. And I remember when I got my 10th cap from Scotland, like a lot of players, you get a bit big-headed now, you get a bit carried away. And I went to see the manager, I said, "I want the same money as Finney, £14 all year round." He says, "You're not as good a player as Finney." I said, "I'm in the summer." I remember when the last time I was in Glasgow, actually. It's amazing how you can be misquoted, if you like, with the press. And hear the lad here talking about James Sanderson. I think there's a place for the press, but they haven't dug it yet. There was a fellow called Bill Brown who used to write for the Times. He did the Anglo column, all the stuff that come from down in England. And I remember him just asking me about Martin Buchan one night, and Tom Forsyth. Well, probably one or two of you heard the story. And football's about opinions. And we're not saying that we're right. People ask you an opinion and you give it, and they might not like it. But, you know, that's the way it goes. And Bill Brown says to me, "What do you think's the difference between Buchan and Tom Forsyth?" And I said, "Well, I think in comparison," I said, "Forsyth's a hard-working player." I said, "In comparison," I said, "Buchan's a Rolls Royce." I said, "Forsyth's like," and I was grasping for words, I said, "Well, he's like Clydesdale." And I come up for the football writers' dinner to speak there, and I met Big Jock, and he bored a hole in me in about 5 minutes, pointing at my chest about criticising Tom Forsyth, and I tried to explain the situation to him. So the next day, there's an old fellow come around to the hotel, just a supporter, if you like. He said, "Mr. Docherty, I believe you said that Tom Forsyth was like Clydesdale." I started to explain the situation. He said, "Listen," he said, "I've got 2 horses with a Clydesdale, and they resent very much indeed being classed alongside Big Tom Forsyth."